It's late December. We recently had our first snowfall. Families are gathering around the fireplace, hanging their stockings with care. What does this all mean? It's time to stay spooky, of course. Today we're going to look at the Spooky Tarot, created by Ryan Caskey, a talented illustrator who also goes by the name The Spooky King. Earlier this year, he created a Kickstarter for the 78-card Halloween-inspired tarot deck that he had already been working on for about 2 years. I instantly fell in love with the artwork on the cards as he had shown them on the campaign page and was lucky enough to get in on the early bird pledge tier. Seriously, I almost feel guilty for how cheap I got this deck. Fully funded in roughly 2 days' time, clearly there was a lot of excitement for this tarot deck. The campaign went well past its initial funding, so the deck reached some stretch goals and upgraded into a really nice 2-piece, sturdy box, a well-written little white book, and the cards got a nice green holographic edging. The Spooky Tarot is, as the creator put it himself, his ultimate love letter to his biggest inspiration, Halloween. The time and effort he put into this deck is clear. The deck definitely uses the Rider-Waite-Smith system as a starting point, but Caskey spent a lot of time really making the cards his own. There are plenty of cards specifically in the Minor Arcana where this is evident. Speaking of the Minor Arcana, one of the things I normally am not a fan of is when creators change the suits. But for whatever reason, with this deck it just kind of makes sense. Gone are the cups, wands, pentacles, and swords, and in are the cats, worms, pumpkins, and spirits. And while with just the teensiest bit of thinking you can match up the elemental correspondences, Ryan made it even easier for us to make the connection in our head by matching the first letter of the suits. Cats are cups, worms are wands, etc. I normally read cards with a mix of intuitive reading based on the imagery of the card in front of me, filtered through a mix of my own interpretations and what I've learned from the various systems over the years, as well as its placement in the spread. Some of the minor cards at first glance seem to be a bit pippish, not really aligning with the traditional RWS interpretation. With a little more study of the artwork, you can start to see how they actually do align quite well. The guidebook also helps push you in the right direction. I have the perfect example to highlight what I'm talking about. I think one of the cards where this is most evident is the Four of Worms. Clearly this is a great illustration. These are some spooky fucking worms. Where I struggle with this card initially is when I see this card and knowing this is RWS based, I immediately am thinking of the Eight of Wands, which is a very different interpretation. I was not immediately seeing the jubilation and joy on the faces of the worms. In fact, I can still make an argument that that is only evident on 2 of them. Of course, I am no expert on the emotions of worms. The Four of Wands is traditionally a card of celebration and homecoming. Pay closer attention to the card and you can see that these 4 worms are traveling down a dirt hole. The one-eyed worm has an expression of joy as they careen down through the dirt to their earth and home. Or, as Caskey writes in his guidebook, 4 bizarre worms joyfully dart downward toward their paradise of grime and dirt. So, it makes sense. Don't misinterpret what I'm saying. This is not a knock on the cards at all. I actually like that I need to do a little work to get there, as I am learning this deck. It'll help make readings more intuitive and based more around the card's artwork, as well as its placement in the spread. If I wanted to read a straight RWS interpretation, I would just use an RWS deck. I'm not going to do a full deck walkthrough in this video. I really wanted to just showcase the deck and give my thoughts on it. If this is something you'd like to see, please leave a comment and let me know. But let's look at some of the art. I'm a sucker for a good card back, and this one really fits the bill. I was not familiar with Ryan Caskey before I stumbled on his Kickstarter, and this deck has definitely made me a fan. I love the pulpy vintage feel of the artwork, and as much as I love Halloween and the spooky season in general, I think we can all agree that there's a lot of corny garbage released in the spirit of Halloween. This is definitely not one of those things. You can tell that Caskey really loves this holiday and horror in general. My favorite suit in the deck is definitely the cat suit. I'm a cat lover, always have been, always will be. I would love for Ryan Caskey to take these feline characters and make a whole cat deck. There are not enough cats exclusive decks out there, and definitely none as dark and spooky as this, and very few get it right. I just really love the vintage aesthetic these cards have, especially with this suit. I've been using these cards for about a month now, and I have found that they read quite well, and I find myself picking this deck up a lot for daily pulls or just random readings. I wasn't initially sure if I would connect as well as I have with this deck. I'm quite happy with it. I would love to see more from the Spooky King in the future. I think his art style would work really well in a variety of different deck types. As of right now, the Spooky King has shipped out all of the Kickstarter rewards, and he plans on making the deck available on his Etsy shop soon, which is linked below in the description. Please follow him on Instagram at the Spooky King, as well as other socials. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and let me know if you also have this deck and what your thoughts are.